He's challenged panthers in the forest. He's fought off ghosts at Halloween. He's survived volcanoes in paradise, street gangs in his old neighborhood, and guards at the dog pound. But tonight, he faces his greatest challenge. Please join us to see if Garfield can survive his 10th birthday party.
Well, just who is he, that fat cat? Just look at what he's done these past 10 years. Yeah, he's been busy, that's a fact. Pitching up affection, drumming up cheers. Garfield, you always know what to do. I said, Garfield, you're some kind of cat. Oh, you party animal, you.
Big, fat, hairy deal.
Happy birthday, Garfield. Sponsored by McDonald's. Good time, great taste. That's why this is my place.
Tonight, we'll look back at 10 years of America's favorite Emmy-winning, pasta-loving fat cat. You'll go behind the scenes to see how Garfield is created for the comic strip and for television. You'll also see Garfield around the world. And now, here is your host for our 10th anniversary party, the creator of Garfield the Cat, Jim Davis.
Good evening and welcome to our show. We're near Muncie, where it's springtime here in Indiana. I grew up only a few miles up the road. Now I have only about a 100-yard commute from my house to my studio. Come on inside and I'll show you where I work. When I first started Garfield some 3,652 strips ago, he looked very different. He had little tiny beady eyes and big pointed ears, big fat jowls, and a big cumbersome body. He just sat there and said, "Feed me a lot." In fact, when we first animated Garfield some 8 years ago, he not only looked very different, but he sounded different as well.
A mouse! Get it! Garfield, you didn't even try.
Show me a good mouser and I'll show you a cat with bad breath.
You're too fat, Garfield. Why, I'll bet you haven't seen your feet in years.
I have feet? One last olive.
Since those early days, Garfield has undergone a Darwinian evolution in that he has changed physically to allow him to do some things. Today, his eyes are larger and more expressive, his ears are smaller, his mouth is bigger to allow him to eat more food. Also, his limbs are longer to allow him to reach for pies and to kick Odie. Also, his body is smaller and not in the way so much. In fact, this is the way he looks today. I'm an eyeball man. I always start drawing the eyeballs first, and then I hope the rest of the character fits on the page. Garfield's appeal partly lies in the fact that he is selfish and lazy. We live in a time where we're made to feel guilty about overeating and oversleeping and not exercising. Garfield defends his right to do all of that. I think he takes away some of our guilt when he does it on the comics page every day. Garfield's ears got smaller as the years wore on because they didn't have anything to do with the expression. I can't remember not wanting to be a cartoonist. I grew up on a farm near Fairmount, Indiana, and as a child I was asthmatic and I was forced to spend a lot of time inside. So to entertain myself, I drew pictures. And my pictures were so bad, I used to have to label them. I would draw a cow, write cow, draw an arrow down to the cow, so people would know what it was. After a while, it became very comfortable for me to put words with pictures. I couldn't communicate totally with just pictures or with just words. For me, cartooning was a very natural thing. I'm not quite sure what kind of discipline it takes to become a successful cartoonist. Once Al Cap told me it takes two things to become a cartoonist. It helps to have been dropped on your head as a small child. And secondly, you must have no desire, talent, or ability to do anything useful in life. The one thing that's never changed about Garfield is that he has this big, portly figure, or as Garfield describes it, he's queen-sized, big-boned, but he's small for a tanker. He has this bottomless stomach, this limitless appetite that we all wish we had. In fact, his appetites are very human. Garfield is basically a human in a cat suit. A lot of his tastes are so human, in fact, he doesn't care to eat mice. The thought of putting a live rodent in his mouth disgusts him. Garfield's big appetite isn't confined to the usual 3 meals in the day. There's the mid-morning snack, the late morning snack, the early, the late afternoon snacks, the early and late evening snacks.
You know, one of these days, eating like that is going to give you a nightmare. Wait and see.
A nightmare? Me? Get real. Imagine him thinking I'd have a nightmare from eating too much. Me. What a silly thing. What a silly...
Eat, Garfield, eat with all your might. Eat that pasta, eat it pasta till it's out of sight. Till it's out of sight. Munch, Garfield, munch. Come on, let's do lunch. Make your belly mozzarella crunch, crunch, crunch. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Cheese, salami, ham, and Swiss, whole wheat, rye, and white. Sliced tomatoes, tons of mayo, love at first bite. Garfield, you're an awesome eater, yes, you are the top. Butter, batters, bitter batter, you don't have to stop. Double stack it, you can hack it, yum, Garfield, yum. Don't you miss a crumb. At a dinner, you're the winner. Don't you pause or you'll get thinner. More, Garfield, more, till you can't fit through the door. Eat, Garfield, eat, chow, chow, chow.
You've got to stop eating, Garfield. You're getting bigger and bigger and bigger and oh no!
Do these eyeballs look familiar? I have a small repertoire of eyeballs. John's sort of the everyday American male. He's easygoing. He's a daydreamer. He's a little wishy-washy. He's basically a nice, good-hearted kind of guy. But he was only put in a strip to be the foil of all of Garfield's gags. His idea of a big evening is watching an Ethel Barrymore film festival. Even though John's a single guy, he considers himself a family man. He takes his boys everywhere. Here's John's idea of a good time on a camping trip.
All I need's a loincloth, a little sack of salt. Whatever you hear on the 6 o'clock news, buddy, it ain't my fault.
Not my fault.
Out here in the backwoods, amongst the leaves and trees, I'm in 7th heaven.
Bees, wheeze, fleas?
'Cause camping is my life. Camping is my life. Camping is my life. I'm in 7th heaven, 'cause camping is my life.
Hoorah! Take me home.
Odie is a delight to work with. He has big ears, a big tongue, and big eyes, and a big heart. The only thing that's tough about doing with Odie is the writing, because he never says anything aside from an occasional arf or a yip or a growl. But his expressions and his body language seem to carry him through the gags. Odie is so rubbery in all of his features. It seems as though he always bounces back from all of the terrible things that Garfield does to him. Even though Garfield and Odie are usually at odds, there are times when they make a pretty good team.
Welcome, the Dancing Armandos!
This'll be a piece of cake.
Cartoonists all approach their art in a different manner. When I do the Garfield comic strip, I sit down somewhere very quiet, and I try to visualize Garfield in my head as if watching a television set. And when I see him in a funny situation, I follow it along until it ends in something funny, and then I back up 3 frames and cut it off. And while that sounds very simple, it works best for me. When I hear a gag, I see it at the same time. So rather than just writing the words out, I do a pencil rough, designing the strip and writing the words in at the same time. I work up about twice size from the size you see in the newspaper. From there, it goes to my assistant, Gary Barker, who does a finished pencil blue line of the strip. We like to work in blue pencil because it doesn't photograph in the newspaper and we don't have to erase over the ink. That way the ink doesn't smear. After that, it goes to my assistant, Valette Hildebrand, who does the lettering and the inking on this strip. And then it comes back to me to check the spelling, add my name and the date, and then the strip is sent to New York.
Okay, Garfield. In 10 seconds, the timer will go off. Capturing for posterity a portrait of a sophisticated young man and his faithful companion.
The greatest enjoyment I get from doing the strip is making people laugh, or at the very least, making people smile. The nicest letters I get are from people who say that Garfield in some way has brightened their day, and they look forward to seeing him all the time. Because Garfield is an entertainment figure. And if nothing else, I hope he tells people that life isn't so bad and that we should all learn to laugh at ourselves.
Hey, Odie, old boy, you know what Halloween night is? Yeah, well, take that stupid pumpkin off your head and I'll tell you. Better. That's a night when dogs have to help cats go out and get candy. That's right. And if a dog does a good job, he gets a whole piece of candy of his very own. Well, do you want to go, boy? Huh? Huh? Want to go out and get candy? Huh? Do you? Do you want to go? Huh? 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 Okay, let's go to the attic and find some costumes for tonight. You know, just between you and me, there are times when I love that dog.
Comic strips are as uniquely American as jazz and the 4th of July. Garfield, as well as other comic characters, have enjoyed the opportunity to jump into other mediums as well. In a moment, we'll be back with Garfield in Hollywood.
What do you think?
Bafo, terrific, don't change a thing. I love it just the way it is. Let's do lunch.